But one thing I do want to start off with is recognizing some of the other speakers. Our keynote speaker was from Copenhagen. And I got to tell you, one of my trips to Russia, we stopped over in Copenhagen. I just had knee surgery, and I took my Advil and went on the mass transit and walked, kind of a misty day, you know, rainy day, you don't really get too wet. They'll see that little mermaid, and it really is a little mermaid. It was about 2 hours worth of going to see it and then realizing that maybe the mermaid wasn't quite as iconic as it was. Then I also got a chance to review ahead of time some of the things that Brad Fraser was talking about taxes, and I know that you'd probably rather have him back for about 15 minutes. But one of the things I did, I'm from Iowa, and I just filed my taxes here on Sunday night with a company called TaxAct, which is a software that's provided as a service, or to stay away from that, a cloud-based service. So what I did is I asked them a question. I said, instead of this whole Idaho thing, I thought maybe I could just solve it by saying, if you're doing my taxes, are there any taxes that have to be collected on the tax as a service? And you know, a little chat line, and they wrote back, Stephen Wright doesn't work here. The last thing I want to talk about is Jay Larson. He said, build organic, build local. I think that's what the key was. And even Mikhail said something to the nature of they want to see organic. And so I've been in attendance on a couple of Idaho Development Council events, and I've enjoyed them both. And I've enjoyed seeing the ideas. So I've already looked up T-sheets. I looked up other folks. I try and find out all I can about them because it's exciting to be around that. However, on the build organic, build local, folks, you got a blue football field. You already are a little bit different, okay? And then I'm supposed to do the rest of this presentation. Are we almost done? Is that the 2 minute sign?
2 minutes.
All right. So I have a lot of different qualifications, and that's good, but not really pertinent to the 17 minutes. I'll go over 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima. I was licensed on a reactor very much like Fukushima. Here's the stuff that happened, and they'll get my slide deck if they want to look at this stuff, right? So the big things to enjoy, or the big things to get out of this is they all involve errors. Gosh, your software would never involve errors, would it? Oh, we didn't collect tax, or we made a 6% error, or it just came out today that the federal government has been counting some stuff wrong. That wouldn't happen. Not you guys. And then, you know, TMI was like an airplane flight, which I had to take to get here. Chernobyl still 7 times. It was just immediate, a level 7 event, just like Fukushima. Chernobyl was immediately displaced to the environment. So Fukushima wasn't nearly as bad. We'll get to how this relates to software and all that in probably the last slide in the last minute. So there's a whole bunch of differences in design, and that accounts a lot for the differences. Just keep in mind that when you start selecting your facility, or if you're going to go to Oregon to avoid the tax, or if you're going to stay in Idaho to avoid the tax, or whatever you're going to do, think ahead about how you're going to grow. And that's a lot of people make a lot of errors there because they don't think about the durability of their service and how disappointed their customers can get and then quit being customers once the infrastructure is broke. Here's some pictures of them. The United States nuclear plants are small. The Japanese nuclear plants were because it was really expensive to get oil on that island, and so they built a whole bunch of nuclear plants. And the Russian nuclear plants, the Soviet Union at the time, were huge. So just the administrative building would be 3 of these blue football fields, and less attractive than blue football fields. In fact, you can see it right there. There's the administration building for the units. So what happened at Chernobyl? This is a model. I'll just point out some stuff before and after. So this is something I'll come back to show you the damage. Why am I showing you this damage? Because damage can happen in your software environment too. You have to prepare. This stuff was stuff that they didn't think would happen, and you hear that all the time. You heard that with the horrible events in Boston. Who would have thought somebody would do this? Who would have thought that this would happen? Well, the same thing applies in software development. Who who would have thought so-and-so would eat the code, or who would have thought they didn't know how to do a backup. So here I just want you to notice this refueling machine is 75 tons. So that would be more than the weight of the stadium out there. 75 tons. We'll come back to that shape. Can you guys remember that shape? It's the only quiz I have built in. So this is after the damage. So there's that shape I told you. Do you see all of it? No, because it's gone. Here's the reactor core. This core cap is about 800 tons. Okay, so that's an immensely huge thing poured in place. It was flipped like a quarter and still rests 47 feet above where it was today. So at Chernobyl, they had an excursion, a steam explosion, 2 of them right in a row, because you can only make steam so fast. You can make steam and transport it at the speed of sound. Nuclear fission, 1 times 10 to the minus 11th. So mismatch there, bad thing. So look at this. Some of these pipes that look like spaghetti are 8-inch pipes. Those are pipes that everybody in this room could stand on and they wouldn't even fade. They wouldn't even budge. So the incredible destructive force. You guys are hearing today from your speakers about the incredible force that you can unleash through your software applications. And I think the Zendesk guy was a pretty good example of that, right? Well, this would be like the opposite side, the Zen balance. Okay? So those walls that were destroyed, those walls are 2 feet thick, and they were destroyed by the force of the explosion. There's a look at the core cap that I told you about. That's looking right down in the reactor. Much larger than the United States reactors. That's flipped, 800 tons, flipped like a quarter, 47 feet above where it used to be. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of force, folks. And where's the fuel? The radioactive fuel? Gone. It had left the building. So it was hanging from transmission lines. They had a lot of work to do. This is a picture I took, and just like that Copenhagen thing where I thought it was a bigger deal than it was. Well, this is a bigger deal. If you ever hear the brown force, this is it. So that's Chernobyl, that's the sarcophagus right there. I'm standing about 3 miles away, I'd say, on an overpass for the railroad. And all the trees right here survived. And can you see where the trees used to be and now some new trees have started growing? I was there 10 years after the date. And so, you know, who would have thought, hey, we're going to lose some trees out of this field? They tunneled under the Dnieper River to provide shielding to people who put cement in the reactor. Who would have thought, hey, I think we'll have to tunnel under a river as part of our emergency plan? So when you guys are asked to back up your work or document your code, remember there's people out there like me who don't think that's an onerous thing because they've seen investments wiped out from other stuff. A year of code could get wiped out. By a bad guy, of course. So what did they learn? Items and procedures pre-stage work well. Anything you think of ahead of time seems to work out pretty well. Even dumb stuff. You can even be stupid if you write it down, somebody will improve it. In fact, I work for Involta. I write a lot of stuff down, and there's some other Involta employees who can assure you of the fact that whatever I write down has to be improved. Scope was not understood or believed outside. I was with the 2 people put on trial on the team that I worked on, put on trial for the design of the reactor engineer from that night. The reactor engineer sketched a picture of the building and sent it to Moscow. The reactor engineer, fully qualified guy. And they said, you're nuts. They didn't even reveal the scope of the damage till several days later because nobody could believe it. So maybe someday you're the guy who has to walk, or gal who has to walk into the office and say, somebody hacked us and we lost this or that. It's happening pretty regularly, so I'd say write it down and protect your code. So anyway, would your network have survived that? So in 1986, there wasn't a whole lot of network and computers. But if 8-inch pipes are getting thrown around like spaghetti, don't sit there and think that because you got your data in that special closet that has a lock, that you're safe. You know, take action to protect your business, and a lot of them are getting easier. I'll go into that. Granite Forks, April 1997, is 34-degree water, or ice, and it flooded the downtown 65,000 people evacuated. They didn't have that in a plan. 85% of the city flooded and 11 different buildings on fire. So Grand Forks was devastated. That's 1997, so internet's probably starting to hit its stride, right? But still none of this massive network stuff that's going on. Cedar Rapids, 35,000 people evacuated. That's where I'm from. So my job, they gave me a very simple job because they really didn't want a lot of stuff screwed up. And my job was the 6 p.m. to 12 midnight shift. And the entire 53 block area is dark. There's no electrical power. There wouldn't be for several months. And my relief came in, and you could park anywhere. 5 minutes? All right. I'm making it up as we go. We're trying to be respectful of your time. So I turn over to my guy, and there's a diesel generator running, and then they're emptying out the vaults of water, so it's just a deafening environment. And keep in mind, you can park anywhere. So this guy came in, we had these little, I call them zip helmets, but they're bump hats with the light on there. And so the police and the National Guard saw him going through. We had provided ahead of time, we had made plans to be there, so that really helped. Otherwise the emergency folks won't let you through. And we kept the National Guard and we kept the police online or capable of making communications that whole time. I come down after my turnover, I walk past one of these great big sluice pumps, and a guy taps me on the shoulder. And I just about avoided my insides. It's pitch dark. A guy comes up to you, and behind it was a policeman wondering if I was a criminal. I was wondering if I was going to get off the floor. So, what's some of the meaning? Here's our A&W. The water's gone away. The A&W is still no action in 2013 from the 2008 flood. Dairy Queen, been gone since the summer after the flood. So it's really hard to flip burgers and get the fries out, even if you're on roller skates when there's that much water. So what's the lessons on the flood disasters? Preparation was huge for continued operations, timely recovery. Having a vision greatly aided communities and companies. So you guys are part of that community, and you guys are urged repeatedly to have a vision. I like coming here. I like seeing all the things you guys do. So pursue your vision. Back it up, though. Practice on recovery teams. So this is huge. How's this apply to the cloud? Well, guess what? The biggest failures that people are having with the cloud is when they go and connect their DR storage connector, the storage connector doesn't quite work like they thought. And if they would have tested it, they could fix it. But in the book, it said it would work. Am I at 2 minutes yet? Oh, I got time. All right. So, would your network have survived? Okay, so our data center survived through extraordinary measures by a lot of people. But would your network have survived those types of floods? No. So if your business is growing and you're doing great here in Idaho or Boise, then take a look at some other place to have part of your data or get backed up. Don't lose your business. And that helped a lot for the people who were prepared. This is a big one for cloud. Know and protect your money pumps. So I go in and people ask me what I do. I say I give advice and people take it. And that's about the simplest I can do, 2 minutes. All right. And so a lot of folks don't know where their money pump is in their business. You should know where the money flows in so that can't get interrupted. When the money flows out, you'll have plenty of help there. People will send you even reminder bills. Okay? Upfront investment will be a fraction of the losses. That is so true on cloud. This has changed so much. You can use private cloud, hybrid cloud, public cloud to some degree to protect your investment, to protect your applications or your service, whatever you're running. And chronic problems will bite hard. That's a huge one on cloud. I won't name names, but there's a cloud provider who has trouble with their elastic expansion. Well, 3 times last year. So I get fired if I have more elastic expansion. Survivors are going to thrive. There's where you get from your questions. But you can have questions now because we have 1 minute or more remaining. So I'm sorry to be brief with you and maybe even jocular, but questions? these things are going to happen. You know, you're going to have a bad day, and you should prepare, especially for those people who are, for some of the students, I'd be the guy who says, put on your seatbelt. You know, what a drag. You know, a little bit of prevention is a pound of cure. And I just want to reiterate, you know, you got the leader and founder of this Janet Larson, been to a couple of these events. You have a lot of positive things going. And if you guys can survive having a blue football field and gain respect within the United States, it seems like you should be able to do anything. Am I close to my time? All right. Thanks very much for your time.